Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Tiana here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Princess Peach Showtime for the Nintendo Switch. So, last time we've somehow managed able to entering into the Sparkle Theater, and as a result we did somehow manage able to talk to one of those, strange people around here, but also in addition to that, we did somehow technically receive some tickets thanks to Toad, but then we've realized about the fact that we somehow got interrupted thanks to the forms of a new villain in this game, which appears to be known as Grape. So, yeah, not to be confused as the forms of one of those fruits. So, and in addition to that though, we also did manage able to experience one play, but also with the second play as well. So generally speaking, it was about the fact that we did somehow tackle through the Castle of Thorns, as well as Ninjutsu, the Art of Rapids. So, overall, we did somehow manage able to collect every single Sparkle Gems, as well as the forms of this particular bow collectible that we also did manage to pick up as well. So, relatively speaking, it was about the fact that in addition to that though, we also did manage able to turn into not only Sword Fighter Peach, but also with the forms of Ninja Peach as well. So yeah, that was actually quite interesting. So today, for this video, is about the fact that we're going to be continuing things on and move on to the next two plays. And something tells me is about the fact that much like, let's say, Warrior Land, the Shake Dimension, once we do somehow manage to complete 4 of those plays in particular, specifically on the first floor, something tells me we might come across into the first boss in the game. So before we get into the forms of the next play, as you can see, what these coins can be used for is that these coins, as we somehow collected, for the sake of the forms of the other 2 plays that we somehow already been into, these will act out as currency, and as a result, similar to the forms of how it does it on Super Princess Peach. However, unlike in Super Princess Peach, like I said before, that what these coins can use for that game, obviously you can able to actually upgrade your heart meter alongside with the forms of the vibe meter. In here though, all it does is about the fact that basically you can able to buy specific cosmetic costumes for not only for Peach, but also with Stella as well. So to be more accurate though, is about the fact that we did somehow manage able to purchase one of those specific colors for Stella, and also you can able to customize it, not just by the forms of Stella, but also for Princess Peach as well. So yeah, that's how essentially how this works, especially noticeable how the shopping system comes into play, and every once in a while though, I will able to try my best able to actually just to go ahead and grab some more coins later down the road, just to ensure for the fact that we can able to actually buy every single dresses, alongside with the forms of some color variations for Stella as well. So yeah, you probably get the gist of it. So anywho, yeah, because of that though, let's get into the forms of the next play, and that's what appears to be something Western related. So because of that, here we go on to Cowgirl in the Wilderness. So yeah, it feels kind of reminds me of the forms of Woody's Roundup kind of syndrome, from the likes of it not only for Toy Story 2, but also with the forms of the video game version of Toy Story 3 for the sake of the forms of the sandbox kind of mode. So either way, except no matter what though, I don't suppose it's possible we can able to actually explore you know, the majority of the forms of the open world sandbox kind of area, because like I said before, this game is incredibly linear. So anyway, so as it turns out, no matter what though, we're most able to come across into yet another transformation as soon as we're able to continue proceedings for this. So anyway, a few things I want to talk about this, especially noticeable because relatively speaking now is that, well, today's date of course there is the 11th of April today, in some cases in 2024 today. And yes, for those of you who lived in North America, well, truth be told, happy 10th anniversary of the film's release of Rio 2, specifically in the American version, because technically the UK version already did that a week earlier. So as a result, we're most able to mention about this again, especially noticeable because, again, while looking back on the film though, it's not perfect by any means. I did certainly find this to be kind of a good one in my opinion. I mean, it does have some flaws for sure, specifically with all this plot devices is all over the place. Likely, for instance, they divide into like three separate stories into one specific narrative, something very similar to the forms of how it does it on, let's say, the atrocious Alvin and the Chipmunks The Squeakquel, which I don't know about you, because I really despise that film so much. Which, as a result, I'm sure about the fact that, well, I'm pretty sure no matter what though, it's a good thing we're not going to get any of those Alvin and Chipmunks movies for now, for the sake of the films of the live-action adaptations, because obviously those films, well, kind of blows in my opinion. Especially notable, it does kind of reminds me like a similar vibes as the films of the majority of the old school Bubsy games, which as a result, yeah, because relatively speaking though, yeah, I just don't want to talk about those specific series ever again. So, yeah, you probably get the idea for that point. So, but anyway though, so yeah, as you can tell, no matter what though, we need to able to get on to the very top of these specific buildings right there. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention about this, and that's what appears to be about the fact that yes, every once in a while, you do come across into that specific roulette balloon, that you can able to actually pop that particular balloon as you saw, and basically though, it's about the fact that you can either get a heart or some coins. So as a result, my best advice for you, especially notable if you really want to go after every single costumes in this entire game, basically though, you need to able to actually grab the insane amount of those coins as much as you're able to actually try to do that. So, but anyway, and if you go to this room right here, we need to light up every single light right here, and I honestly have no idea why they somehow give me a sparkle gem right there, which I have no idea how do I explain about this, but the reason why we have to brighten this room up, because of this particular bow item that we somehow got. So because of that though, yeah, there might be a couple of times though is about the fact that, like I said before, that certain sparkle gems will get a little bit tricky to obtain for the sake of the forms of one specific reason, and then again, we'll explain more about that if we continue proceedings for this, because for now, something tells me we can able to actually turn into yet another transformation. So, of course, it seems kind of weird about the fact that once we're able to stand on the podium, that it looks like no matter what though, it comes from the likes of this very, very weird visual effects, but oh well. Let's see what the third transformation is. And we have Cowgirl Peach. So, makes sense, because obviously it takes place in a western environment. So, yeah, it seems pretty cool about the fact that Peach can able to turn into a cowgirl ever since technically in Mario Party 2, except the fact that in Mario Party 2, that obviously she does have a dress. Whilst in here though, she's more likely like a, kind of like a Jessie kind of vibes from Toy Story 2, 3, and 4, despite the fact that in 4's case that she was basically sidelined for the majority of Toy Story 4, which I don't know about you, because I have mixed feelings for the sake of Toy Story 5 is going to be still coming, and no matter what though is about the fact that at least we can able to wait for that until 2 years time, which as a result, yeah, that could be also applied for the sake of the films of the new Mario movie is on its way until in 2026, so that must have been so much more of expecting or something like that. So, but anyway, so it looks like no matter what though is about the fact that we need to chase down this guy right here. That's usually relatively speaking though is about the fact that we need to defeat a whole bunch of Sour Bunch, because obviously there's a bunch of them, so we can able to expect to know about the fact that was to come. So something's worth noting for as well, and that's what appears to be about the fact that recently I've decided able to actually change the actual Let's Play name in between both Sonic Adventure as well as Sonic Adventure 2, because obviously no matter what though, I've decided able to change back the forms of the original titles for the sake of the forms of those specific videos of mine, which are Let's Play Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut, alongside with the forms of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for the GameCube versions, because no matter what though, I still have no idea how on earth am I supposed to able to actually decide to do the original versions of Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2 on the Dreamcast versions, because obviously that we still have to rely on the forms of that stupid random resetting problem. I mean, it won't be so bad on Sonic Adventure 2, because obviously though you're able to go from stage to stage, whilst compared to the forms of Sonic Adventure 1, every time if we do complete the stage, we have to go and traverse through the hub world while trying to deal with the unskippable cutscenes. So, understandably so. But anyway, so as you can tell, we ended up in the forms of the chase sequence right there, and it looks like we can able to ride on a horse. So that way we can able to actually proceed, and then once you get close towards this guy, then obviously use her lasso, so that way we can able to actually deal with certain properties or somewhat. So, I know for a fact it's been about 2 days ago, but anyway, before we get inside in this particular purple thing right there, obviously there's a bonus area right here, so we can able to actually utilize, you know, Peach's lasso, so we can able to actually deal with the Sour Bunch, and once you've done so, then you get yourselves a Sparkle Gem like so. So, anyway, let's talk about the forms of another topic at this point, and I was pretty annoyed today, and the reason why, because unfortunately though, I have no luck to try to get myself light blue Yoshi driver in Mario Kart Tour, because guess what? I was screwed over by the particular specific morning during the forms of in yesterday's case, mind you, because I was really expecting that. So far I was in second place at one point for that particular ranked cup system, and no matter what though, some user out there in Japan anyway did somehow beat me to it by a few margins of the forms of specific amount of points. And guess what though, during the forms of the second week, during the forms of the Yoshi tour so far, specifically the rerun incarnation of that particular tour, and no matter what though, I just don't think it's possible for me to able to get every single Yoshi's in Mario Kart Tour now, because honestly though, Mario Kart Tour still blows out of my existence or something, or perhaps even maybe it really baffles me for that game now. So, but as you can see, we did somehow manage to able to take care of this imposter right here, and you have to able to hit him for about approximately 3 times, and then once you've done so already, then obviously he's been defeated, and well, straight to the point, we did somehow save every single jewelry, and in addition to that though, we always managed able to obtain the 10th and the final Sparkle Gem every time whenever we do manage to complete the epilogue on certain plays. So either way, that pretty much does it for this stage. So pretty action-packed and everything, so we can potentially try to able to actually just to like, well, eventually trying to change costumes at one point. Speaking of changing some costumes, potentially speaking though, that until likely or so for the later videos to come, that I'm always able to try to able to change the different variety when it comes to the forms of different designs of dresses, as well as different designs stellar colors, so just in case we can able to show some bit of variety, so that way it won't be just be stuck with the forms of just only one outfit throughout the majority of the playthrough. So that might be seems to be the case. So anyway, so it looks like we've got one more play left before we take on the first boss in the game. So here we go on to this particular play. So let's see what we've got. So we've got welcome to the Festival of Sweets. So something tells me it's going to be a mini-game level, because the reason why it's going to be a mini-game level, because, well, we're probably not going to mention about this right now until whenever we come across into yet another transformation, because kind of thinking about it though, the transformations in this game kind of reminds me like a similar vibes as the forms of how it does it in Super Princess Peach sometimes, whenever you're trying to able to actually tap the touchscreen, because in that game in Super Princess Peach does able to actually utilize 4 emotions you can able to like interact. Like for instance, one of them is anger, one of them is sadness, one of them is joyful, and the other one is calm. So as a result, yeah, that's what I can really say about that, I guess. But I was expecting to try to able to mention about the forms of Super Princess Peach, but I'm afraid to tell you that can wait for a little while, especially noticeable because at the moment, that as far as I'm aware, that Maxi, he's almost finishing up with the forms of Sonic 06 at this point, and I'm sure enough that was about the fact that at some point in this weekend, that Pac-Man will definitely going to be able to, well, continue able to be playing through Winnie the Pooh's Rumbly Tumbly Adventure on the Game Boy Advance. So, and also something's worth noting for is about the fact that, well, in regards to the forms of what is going on, in terms of the forms of around the world, that, can you even believe about the fact that it's been about 3 years ago since when Blue Sky Studios has recently been shut down, due to the forms of how the fact that, well, Disney officially shut down Blue Sky Studios due to the actual COVID-19 pandemic. And, relatively speaking, we really still miss that particular company, especially notable because that's a good reason why that I've mentioned about the forms of the 10th anniversary of Rio 2 from earlier, because no matter what though, we've not seen the official new lineup in terms of the forms of the new installment of the Rio branded franchise ever since during the forms of it, not only for Rio 2 as a film itself, but in terms of video games wise, I think the last time that Rio did somehow manage able to receive some video game tie-ins was a puzzle game back in 2016 or 17. I'm not exactly sure when that particular game did exactly came out, but I do remember playing it for a bit back in the day. But it's a shame about the fact that that game just got delisted recently, and no matter what though, I'm pretty sure because that game heavily utilizes microtransactions, just like the forms of how it does it on any other puzzle games back then. Oh yeah, and speaking of microtransactions actually, recently I've decided able to go back onto Crash Team Racing Nitro Field recently, and thank goodness for that folks, because recently I finally managed to unlock Spyro the Dragon as a playable character in Crash Team Racing Nitro Field. Like, it is pretty simple, but it's also very luck-based as well. But I'm sure about the fact that Maxi will mention more about it if he goes back onto Sonic 06 until tomorrow, for the sake of the forms of the very hard mode for Silver's campaign. So, anyways, here's our 4th transformation. We have Patisserie Peach, which obviously she is now a baker. So this means about the fact that I believe for this particular play, does not involve combat, which unlike the forms of how it does in Sword Fighter Peach, alongside with Ninja Peach, and especially notable with Cowgirl Peach, obviously though that there won't be any combat. So because of that though, all we have to do for this point right here is about the fact that as soon as we get into this next room, as I mentioned this before, this is a mini gameplay, so no matter what though, we have to create the certain amount of baking stuff as much as you can, because as you can see on the center of the stage, not only does it give you a time limit, but also with the actual gauge, depending on how well you did, for the sake of the forms of this part. So we have to mash the B button, and then once you try to time your thing successfully, then obviously you will able to hold up a bunch of cookies. And then if you overcook it though, or overbaked it though, then you're probably gonna mess this up, because otherwise though, if you mess up at least once, see this is what I mean about the fact that when it comes to able to trying to get certain sparkle gems, you need to be absolute perfect when it comes to the forms of trying to achieve such an accomplishments like this. Oh yeah, and every once in a while though is about the fact that these other people decide able to pop over for a bit if you decide able to actually go for another mixing bowl, like these two right here on the left. Basically, you can able to actually extend the forms of how many cookies or biscuits you're going to be carrying. So, as a result, we're doing not too shabby, and all you have to do in this part is about the fact that once you're done with the forms of a lot of baking, then obviously though you have to deliver those cookies or biscuits right at the forms of those trolleys. And as a result, once you're able to done quite enough, then sure enough though, you can easily manage able to accomplish the entire objective. Not just by the forms of the entire objective, but also as you can tell that we've almost filled up the entire gauge. So no matter what though, I think we basically got this. So, because what if I first got to this point right here, that, dang it, okay, whatever. Whatever, because I'm pretty sure the gauge is already filled up. So, yeah, as I mentioned this before, what if I got to this point right here, that I almost got perfect, except the fact that obviously though is about the fact that if you mess up once, then obviously you're not going to get that particular, you know, the sparkle gem as you saw. But either way, since I've managed to did this on the first try, so this means I've somehow got the sparkle gem, no problem. But there's obviously going to be more to it than that, because obviously though is about the fact that that's not to say we have to do with a lot of button mashing, because, relatively speaking, there's also going to be yet another mini game that we have to put up with. So, but before we do that, there's a bonus area right here, so we can able to not only try to able to do some more baking by simply trying to able to combine ingredients into this mixing bowl by mashing a B button, of course. So self-explanatory, but if you time it well enough, then you should able to get the actual biscuits or cookies out of it. So that way we can get ourselves, of course, a sparkle gem. So, and let's just get the heck out of here. So just to ensure we can able to actually go ahead and, well, do the next minigame in the process. So, but anyway, as far as I'm aware, is about the fact that there's also another thing I want to mention about this as well. In regards to the forms of My Little Pony Tale Your Tale, as it turns out, ever since Journey forms have been some time ago, on last Friday or something, as it turns out, the most recent episode for the sake of the forms of My Little Pony Tale Your Tale, despite the fact I've almost about to give up for the sake of the forms of G5 by the way, but I will admit though right away though, actually I'll explain more about that if we decide able to go for this minigame first. So as you can see, in this particular minigame right here is about the fact that we need to decorate the cakes, and then once you decorate the cakes successfully, obviously though you have to like press the B button to able to create the decorations on the actual cake toppings, and then in order to able to actually completely done with the decoration, then obviously you have to hold the A button down, so just in case you can able to actually see the results. And I believe in order to able to actually get the other two sparkle gems is that we have to tackle not one but 5 cakes to decorate. So might take a bit while though, especially noticeable because there might be a couple of times where basically certain turntables, or specifically the actual cake, decides to rotate a bit. So yeah, nothing else to say about the forms of this particular the play itself. So even then though, I think relatively speaking this entire stage is pretty much a piece of cake, especially noticeable because obviously that there's not much frustration here and there. Oh yeah, speaking of which though, is about the fact that unlike in Yoshi's Crafted World and what have you, alongside with Yoshi's Woolly World, that as you can tell about the fact that once you do manage to start the game, you do realize about the fact that your heart meter was actually on 5 units of hearts, as opposed to forms of how it does it in Yoshi's Woolly World and Yoshi's Crafted World, that basically though you're able to actually have a certain amount of hearts, whilst in here though you only have 5 units of hearts, which it feels very similar to the forms of how it does it in also in Super Princess Peach, why simply trying to able to actually upgrade your heart meter and stuff like that. Here's the catch though, and relatively speaking though, is about the fact that technically you can also increase your heart meter as well by simply able to actually get yourselves a heart charm, and basically that actually gives you 3 additional hearts. But there is actually the option for you to able to actually select yes or no. If you really want to be up for the challenge, then obviously I'm probably not going to do it for this run through anyway, just because I've already experienced this game for myself from my spare own time. So relatively speaking though, I don't suppose there's aren't going to be any tricky moments for the time being. So either way though, until later on that is. So but I'll explain more of that in a moment. So anyway, so it looks like all these cakes have been fully decorated, so no mess ups at all, because I can assure you, if we accidentally managed able to hold down the A button by complete accident, I believe that will be a bit of a mistake. So, and of course you do have to worry about the time limit as well, so just to ensure for the fact that you can able to actually decorate all these cakes due time. So, but anyway, so yeah, I do apologize for my commentary. It's a little bit slightly iffy at some points, because like I said before, I'm really annoyed that I seriously can't stress enough that how much I despise Mario Kart Tour now, just because of all that stupid ranked cups, likely also that it does not give me light blue Yoshi, which as a result that I think at this point in time is that getting certain super characters from my remaining playable characters department is actually going to get a lot more difficult and luck based at times. So anyway, so once you're able to place that cookie on top of the cake, that's it. Delicious. And yeah, basically the festival has just begun. So yeah, not too shabby right there. So of course we can able to actually get some even more coins, so as a result we somehow got exactly 200 coins, so we can able to easily try to spend on some costumes or some dresses and what have you. So even then though, like I said before, those dresses alongside with some colors for Stella are basically for just, you know, or let's just say cosmetics. So anyway, so once we're done with the forms of the 4th play, in terms of the forms of the 1st floor, something well is about to happen. So for instance, about the fact that the doors is now changed into likely a blue kind of door color, alongside with the forms that particular icons on top of it as well. And it looks like that one of the doors is, well, somehow opened up. Well, I would say about the fact that the door did somehow appear, but obviously we can't open it because, well, do you guys even remember back in Journey Forms within Yoshi's Crafted World that basically though, in order able to progress, not just by the forms of certain worlds, but also with certain bosses as well, that we do need to collect a certain amount of smiley flowers in order able to progress. In here though, basically in order able to actually access the bosses, basically though, remember what that particular sparkle gems as we somehow keep on collecting? Like for instance, so far we've somehow collected about 40 of them so far. So relatively speaking though, is about the fact that we do need to use these sparkle gems in order able to actually power up Stella, so that way we can able to actually open up the boss door, and as a result, that way we can able to take on the first boss in this whole entire game. So yeah, as a result for that particular point, that obviously since that we've got 40, so as a result we have to use 10 sparkle gems, and that way it will pretty much lead us now into 30 sparkle gems. So either way, we'll just go ahead and select yes, because obviously we are ready to take on the first boss in the game. And I suppose you'd be probably wondering about the fact that, kind of think about it, that particular icon on the door does kind of reminds me of the forms of this Balan Wonderworld vibes, with all the, you know what I'm saying, because I already know for a fact that, well, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, here we go onto the first boss in the game, and I wonder what the first boss is going to be. Because unlike in Super Princess Peach, that we sometimes manage to come across into some familiar bosses from Mario games past, likely for instance there was Petey Piranha, as well as the forms of, let's just say, King Boo, and Wiggler, and even Glooper Blooper from the likes of Super Mario Sunshine of all things. So yeah, pretty interesting all things considered. But in here though, I think something tells me certain bosses in this game, it's all most likely based off from the likes of the forms of specific objects that you would able to experience in the act, or in some cases managed able to play on the stage. So it looks like we're about to face off against with this very weird bird right here that it did somehow manage able to merge into the disco ball. So as a result, yeah, he's part of the forms of the actual Madame Grape. So yeah, we definitely need to stop her somehow. Well, it wasn't until for later though, that's the thing though. Disco Wing. Oh yes, because obviously since that's it was a disco ball but with wings. So yeah, obviously for this boss right here, it's actually pretty simple. Basically though, it's about the fact that as soon as when she managed to drops those disco balls, that way you have to able to use the sparkle ribbon, and you obviously get able to send the disco ball right back at her for twice. And then once you've done so, but obviously about the fact that if you come across this particular spirit orb thing right there, you have to mash the B button in order able to actually just try to able to count as a proper hit. So obviously no matter what though, she does have 3 hits, so just like the forms of how it does it on most Mario bosses these days. Especially noticeable because, well, unlike in Super Mario Bros. Wonder sometimes, that obviously certain bosses do able to actually have 4 hit points, whilst compared to the forms of how it does it in, let's just say, New Super Mario Bros. U, specifically, basically though, the majority of the bosses only have like 3 hit points. So, anyways, and every once in a while though, that she can able to actually shift between different sides of the gravity. To be more specifically though, that we somehow shift from the ceiling, and once you're able to actually deal with this particular hit right there, we've come back onto the ground, and then every once in a while that disco wing will able to force us to go back onto the ceiling while trying to avoid getting crushed, as well as the forms of do not get hit. Because, well, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, well, here's the thing though, is that, again, we're probably not going to explain about this right about now, potentially speaking, because obviously, like I said before, that we're not going to mention any of those spoiler details from now on, until specifically later, so... I mean, for the most part, this boss is pretty much a piece of cake. Oh, and sometimes that disco wing decides to able to send out the forms of some little weird cheeks right here, which as a result, thankfully you can able to defeat them in the process. So either way, and that basically does it from here, and try to mash the B button multiple times, and there she goes. And suffice to say, since we somehow defeated the disco wing, that means the first floor is completed. Because the reason why I say the first floor, especially noticeable if you probably already noticed on the actual description, back in June forms within the first part of this entire playthrough, that yes, much like the forms of how it does it in Luigi's Mansion 3, basically though, we're gonna be going through floor to floor. So basically, since we somehow, you know, completely done everything for the first floor, so that means not only we can able to actually access to the forms of the next floor, which appears to be the second floor, but also the first floor has been fully restored. Also we think, because obviously there's going to be more to it than that, but then again we're not going to talk about it right now, because relatively speaking now we can now able to move on to the second floor. Or, technically speaking though, there's also the basement floor, which then again we're not going to explain things too much just yet, until specifically until next Tuesday, mind you, because like I said before, the actual uploading schedules for Princess Peach Showtime is most likely focused on not only Tuesdays, but also Thursdays as well. And also because of how the fact that since the first floor has been fully restored, this also means, apparently though, we can able to actually go in and participating in the rehearsals, which as a result, we're not going to do this right about now, but it's so likely for this extra amount of content though, we will can. So yeah, I'll promise you guys on that, especially noticeable because for the most part, I think it's probably best to able to actually go through play to play first, and then once we're done with the majority of the plays in this whole entire game, obviously though we will show off some extra bits and bobs, to be more specifically, some side things as well as the rehearsal stuff. So anyway, and since that these lasers are now completely gone on the first floor, so either way, and I suppose that we're most able to end things off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Princess Peach Showtime, and that's what appears to be about the fact that we're going to be hit on to the second floor, which does contain not only some more plays, but eventually the next boss as well. So with that being said, I will see you guys until on next Tuesday. Later, fellas.